Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Thursday, February 24th, 2022. Lots of news this morning, but you know what? YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and other social media has enlightened the world to the crazy Karens of the universe. It's just another view into how white privilege and racism has come into full and unapologetic view even during the deadly coronavirus pandemic. This morning, we explore the craziest of the Karens and welcome your thoughts and comments. Let's bring on the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. Also joining us this morning is the publisher of the Westside Gazette, Bobby Henry, and the publisher of Texas Metro News and iMetro Media, Cheryl Smith. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Bobby Henry, good morning. And Cheryl Smith, want to salute her. She's now also, in addition to being the Region 4 president of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, she's our national treasurer.
Oh, boy.
So congratulations, Cheryl Smith.
Thank you.
Unanimously elected by the board of directors, and salute to you. And you held other national officers dealing with Black press, dealing with NABJ and others. So the NNPA, we're very pleased to have you. And STACY, more and more people are watching Let It Be Known every morning. And always good to see my great friend and colleague down in South Florida, Bobby Henry.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning.
Absolutely. And we encourage our viewers too to watch Let It Be Known on the Black Press USA's YouTube channel, the Let It Be Known portion of that channel. So join us there. Let's start with a couple of headlines though this morning. Brett Hankinson is not on trial for killing Breonna Taylor. A prosecutor made clear in opening statements Wednesday and again yesterday as he addressed the jury. The former police officer is facing charges because during a botched 2020 narcotics raid on the 26-year-old's Louisville, Kentucky apartment, he fired 10 shots, allegedly blindly endangering a man, woman, and a child in a neighboring apartment. Kentucky Assistant Attorney General Barbara Whaley said Breonna Taylor should not have died that night, the prosecutor exclaimed. The city of Louisville, in a civil matter, paid millions of dollars to Breonna Taylor's family, but the money did not bring her back. Nothing will. The trial isn't about the validity of the search warrant, the prosecutor said, nor is it about whether the Louisville Metro Police Department needs reform or more support. This is about the three people who came dangerously close to being shot when former Officer Hankinson fired into Breonna Taylor's home. So that trial is now fully underway. We'll watch and pay close attention, Bobby and Cheryl and Doc, on the outcome of that trial. We've seen the Ahmaud Arbery killers get, the family of Ahmaud Arbery get justice as their killers were convicted. They're also following another trial that we'll talk about momentarily. But this situation with Breonna Taylor, just how important is this case, even though it really does not have any real bearing on Breonna Taylor herself?
Well, I think it's a very important case. And again, states, all these cases are connected. None of these cases are isolated. This is about systemic racism in the United States of America, in the judiciary, in the law enforcement, in the criminal justice system. And we have to continue to bring awareness, focus on these cases. So is it important? Yes, it is important. And because we say this particular case is important, does not mean that we've lost sight or memory of Breonna Taylor. Her family still has not gotten justice, even though they did get a major settlement, monetary settlement. As you stated, it does not bring back her life. In fact, all of the victims of this racism, we can't bring them back. But what we can do is to make sure that people don't forget what happened to them. What we can do is to make sure that their legacy leads to the transformation and changes in public policy, changes in the criminal justice system, so we can go forward. And therefore, none of their suffering or their sacrifice would be in vain. But it's up to us, those of us that still have life, we got to do our job.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheryl, Bobby, I know your newspapers, the Texas Metro News and the Westside Gazette, have been following the Breonna Taylor situation as well. What's the importance for your readers when it comes to this situation with the former cop who's being charged for shooting so blindly and wildly into a neighbor's apartment of Breonna Taylor?
Yeah.
You know, it makes our job harder because, just think about it. A day ago, 2 years ago, what happened with Ahmaud Arbery? And we're having to share that with our readers. And then think about in 2 years, 10 years ago with Trayvon Martin, we are constantly being bombarded with cases like these. And think about the ones that to we don't get information on. So we have to be ever vigilant, but it makes our job really hard because we have to balance out the coverage that we give to our audiences because they get tired. You get battle fatigue because we're constantly fighting the same fights. And I have to say to Dr. Chavis, I just say thank you for the work you did decades ago. And when you watch, especially during this month when I call it Run a Negro to Death Month. But we see different movies and see folks talking about it. Well, they talk about how wonderful the Black press is. So that's a good thing. You love hearing that. But you think about we were there. We were there alongside everything happening. And guess what? We have to be there today, too.
Yeah. Cheryl, you brought up a point with Trayvon Martin on the 26th of February. So the case with the Wonton shooting, the fact that a Black life was taken seems to diminish because of the way this police officer just haphazardly shot. Never mind that he killed a sister, but he haphazardly shot into somebody else's apartment. And so that takes away from the life of Breonna Taylor, and just a wayward shooting seems to have more significance. But I would like for us to find out how many lives have been taken during the month of February, and somehow we may want to recognize those lives as a part of Black History Month, and what we have lost because of systemic racism, so that's where I am.
I think that's an awesome idea, Bobby Henry. I know that I have started, and we have not yet began to publish them, but I've started a whole thing where Black Lives Lost is the title of this series that we are currently working on. All of our people lost to gun violence in the United States, and it's a list that keeps growing and growing and growing, and soon you'll be able to see that series. But I think that's a wonderful idea to document those who are lost during the month of February. Also in the news this morning, 3 former Minneapolis police officers charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights chose to do nothing as a fellow officer squeezed the life out of George Floyd. A prosecutor said yesterday as they continued closing arguments and sent the trial to the jury. The defense attorneys claimed that the officers were too inexperienced. They weren't trained properly or didn't have the intent the charges require. J. Alexander Kwong, Thomas Lane, and Tao Thao are charged with depriving Floyd of his right to medical care when Officer Derek Chauvin pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes as the Black man pleaded for air and pleaded for his mother before going silent. The 3 are charged with failing to intervene to stop Derek Chauvin during the May 25th, 2020 killing that triggered protests worldwide and a re-examination of racism and policing, I should say, in America. The jury is now deliberating the fate of those 3 former officers. And of course, let it be known, we will bring you the verdicts when they are reached, and we will also cover the aftermath. So again, as discussed in the Breonna Taylor situation, Doc and Cheryl and Bobby, it's another case that we again are looking for the outcome, but also continue to mourn the loss of an unnecessary death in the community.
STACY, it's really important to note, and some of you say lack of experience. How many little young kids have come upon maybe their father or someone hurting their mom, and the little kid said, "Get off my mama," because they see something wrong going on.
Yeah, and two, this brings Mel Reeves. We need Mel right about now from that area. Mel has passed on, the journalist, good journalist. But to the what's the criminal name for if you're involved in a crime with somebody and somebody gets killed and you're charged
acted in concert.
Yeah. So here we have that is evident that these other officers were a part of a murder, and now you're asking them to be excused because they have no damn experience. What gives them the right to be on the force if they don't have the experience to care for life? So it gets beyond that, for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know, Dr. Chavis, we've talked about this ad nauseum, and this is something that we will continue to talk about because it continues to happen, right, Dr. Chavis?
Yes, and I would just like to point out, Stacy, and to our illustrious publishers, Cheryl Smith and Bobby Henry. Let's also note that this year, 2022, marks the 195th year of the Black Press of America. If somebody would go back over the last 195 years, it would be like it would be larger than an encyclopedia, just to list the names. It'll be volumes and volumes just to list the names of lives that have been taken from our community, from our families, unjustly, brutally, some by lynching, some by driving while black, jogging while black, breathing while black, existing while black. And this is because of the systemic racism in America. However, I must say that because of the Black press and because of the civil rights movement, because of the Black church, all is not lost. We it's our obligation and duty to respond to these tragedies, but it's also our obligation and duty to raise up a new generation of freedom fighters so we can keep pushing forward. 2022 also marks the midterm elections, and we're not talking about this enough. I'm telling you, we got to get rid of some of these district attorneys, get rid of some of these prosecutors, get rid of some of these judges, but not only get rid of them, who will they be replaced by? And that's why I'm hoping that President Biden will soon announce his selection for the next Supreme Court justice. And I'm sure it'll be an overqualified African-American woman. Because right now on the Supreme Court, we do not have an advocate for African-Americans.
Yeah, and that announcement should come by Monday, according to the White House. The nomination for the Supreme Court, and it is expected to be actually, we know that it will be an African-American woman. It's just a matter of which of the candidates. The president did wrap up those interviews yesterday. So we are expecting an announcement at any time now, and the Black Press of America will have that as soon as the president.
Well, that'll make some more Black history. We say all the time, Bob and Cheryl, the best way to celebrate Black history is to make some more history. So Monday is the last day of Black History Month. So that will be a historic announcement on the last day of Black History Month.
Yeah, and then you all get a break because guess what? Then I become prime again because it's Women's History Month.
That's right.
I had 31 days. I say, you know what? I'll be a woman after that. Dr. Chavis, you mentioned voting and, looking at Dallas County. Well, actually, like about 46% of the voters have been African-American, 35 have been white, and we're like at 8% Latino. And I can't stress the importance of it, but guess what? Dallas County and surrounding areas, they're kind of on lockdown today because of the weather. And for me, I don't care about the weather. And I wish we could I don't know what we can do to get our people, to, I tweeted the other day about peonage. When we talk about how many people were taken away, Black men and women were taken away from their families for something that was clearly just the racism of this country. We have to vote. And We
Cheryl,
have to vote.
And Cheryl, you're right. Doc, you're absolutely right. What bothers me here in Broward County, we have the largest congressional black district in the nation, you know, and only 10.9% came out to vote. That's what bothers me is when black folk disenfranchise other black people, you know, and we got to stop doing that. Our black elected officials, you know, I'm gonna say this. I remember when President Barack Obama was running, I stood in line, long lines, and these brothers and sisters who came out to vote, they came out regularly. They came out reeking with some of the best herbal cologne I smelled in my life, you know, with gold teeth and pants sagging. But they came out and they stood in line in heat to vote it because they had a reason to vote. Here, we are disenfranchising our black voters with the stupidity of our black elected officials, and we have to hold them accountable. And I'm saying that because if you look through the pages of black newspapers in election time, you don't see no advertising from people who are running, you know. So they do us an injustice when they do that. They disenfranchise us like we don't even matter. So I don't mean to.
We need to call them out. We really need to call them out.
When you mention voting, Doc, you know, you open up a whole can of worms when it comes to us. Yes, we got to vote. And yes, we have to explain how important it is for us to vote and what happens with the judgeships, with our own neighborhoods, you know. So yeah,
well, you definitely, Bobby, you're definitely talking to the right man. Dr. Chavis is on a mission as far as as he said, the GOTV. So we'll be doing a whole lot more on that.
We're going to make an announcement soon, Bobby and Cheryl, and you're going to be involved in it. It's going to be a national announcement where the NMPA is going to open that can of worms even wider.
Okay.
Right. We need to address some remedies. And we have power in our hands that we're not using. And when God gives you something,
yes, sir,
it's almost a sin not to use it. And so our job is to plead our own cause. And so what is our cause in 2022? We began this program listening to all of the tragedies, all of the injustices, all the brutality, all the suffering. But what is our response? And that's where the Black press comes in. You know, we educate, but we also agitate unapologetically. Yes, you know, we got to stir us up into almost a fever pitch.
Yes, sir.
Where we overwhelm the voter suppressions in Texas. Cheryl, you know, we got early voting. You're right. Weather, rain, sleet, or snow, or hot sun should not stop us from voting.
Well, listen, as Dr. Chavis mentioned, we've talked about some really, really grave issues this morning, some serious issues. Also in the news this morning is the fact that Russia has indeed invaded Ukraine. And we do have, the Black press is worldwide, right? So we do have brothers and sisters in Eastern Europe. We want to keep those in mind as this situation explodes now in Eastern Europe. And we also, too, don't want to be how do you say, maybe a little disrespectful of the seriousness of things going on, but we are going to lighten it up just a little bit as we conclude today. You know, and this does still fall along the lines of what has been going on since the pandemic. If you go to YouTube, you go to Instagram, TikTok, what has been born? Crazy Karens. And that's another form of how white supremacy and white privilege has really been unapologetically in your face since the pandemic, even before, but even more so now. Let's take a look at some of these so-called crazy Karens, and we discuss crazy Karen. We told Cheryl and Bobby we'd have a little fun this morning, so here you go.
My children will not come to school on Monday with a mask on. All right? That's not happening. And I will bring every single gun loaded and ready to, I will call every.
That's 3 minutes. You've gone past your time. It's a policy. Thank you.
I'll see y'all on Monday.
And I will see you on Monday. You know, I was talking to our producer, who's
Ooh.
now that's a white woman, Crazy Karen. I was talking to our producer, who's a black one. I said, now imagine that was you standing on there talking about bringing these loaded guns, and I'll see you Monday. Would you have been able to walk out of that room, Cheryl?
Not at all. Not at all. And oh, this is so. I want to know what school this teacher is at, and that just says something, because that same mentality is translating into what she puts in our minds. Those little boys and girls sitting there in class, and we have to protect. We have to protect our children from teachers like that.
Mm.
Yeah, Bobby. I heard your reaction as it was going on. Your thoughts, because again, they have, that's just one small example of what these so-called crazy Karens have been doing since they really came to light during the pandemic.
You know what I remember seeing an incident where a brother was checking into a hotel, and he had he had honors. The hotel, he had privileges. So while he was checking in, this white woman behind him got extremely agitated because he was in front of her. They were waiting on him first, and she was antagonizing him, and she went up and touched him. And the brothers, he turned around and said, what are you doing? Blah blah blah. But he didn't do to Karen what he should have did. But what he did was went and knocked Karen's husband out. So I mean, she was acting up, but being the man that he was, since the white guy didn't stop his woman from doing what she was doing, the brother went and knocked that white man out. So maybe we should, to address this crazy Karen issue, is man should deal with man. And let Karen let the sisters deal with Karen, and that has happened. But it's crazy, man. We're living in a crazy, violent time,
Yeah, well, and cell phones are helping bring to light what is there all along, all the time.
Yeah, it's true. And, James Wright writes in, Dr. Chavis, and this is probably a good part of it, right? He says that some whites fear that what Dr. Chavis has said, the browning of America.
The browning of America. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor.
But keep in mind now, the browning of America or the whitening of America, at the end of the day, God is in control. And the pendulum now is swinging toward communities of color, not just in America, but all over the world. And the question is, once we get, because we will get the reins of power. Once we get the reins of power, are we going to act like the former oppressor toward one another? Are we going to be loving and caring? Or, as some of their fears is that we will become a mirror image of our own oppression. So that's why we have to love one another. I hear Dr. King screaming from his grave. What happened to us loving one another? What happened to us caring for one another? To the extent to which, as has been noted earlier in the program, we would stand out in the sun for 14 hours to cast our vote, no matter how hot it gets. I've been in some of those lines in Broward County. I used to live in Broward County, Bobby, and you'd be harassed while you're standing in line. I saw some of the deputies tore away people's cars because they parked trying to vote. And I think that, but to me, the more they try to keep us from voting, the more we have to keep pushing. The more they try to silence the black press, the more we got to speak out. The more they try to, and I'm just gonna be honest with you. People coming to me all the time saying, Reverend Chavis, we're tired of marching. And the people who say that ain't never marched.
No.
Where do you get this hopelessness from? These seeds that are planted in our mindset. So liberation starts in our own mind, where we have to reclaim our dignity, our integrity, and move forward, and don't let these evil, because at the end of the day, racism is just not something wrong. It's evil. It's sinful.
That old saying, take it to the streets, and we have to get back to that context. Even though the streets have been gerrymandered You know, they're you know, and it's all over the place, but still people recognize people. So when we go to the streets and bring that crowd and talk about that which got us to this point, the marching, the singing, you know, the uplift, you know, then we come back to where we're supposed to get to.
Well, we wanted to do more this morning, but we've had at the beginning some technical glitches, unfortunately, but also because we had some other topics that you guys, and rightfully so, thought it was really important to go into. Cheryl, I'm gonna give you the last word this morning.
Well, oh wow, there's so many words, and I just want us to. You talked about Dr. King and the love, and I've heard numerous times, if everyone who said they marched with Dr. King had marched, so much would have happened. So much, the world would be so different. And I'm just sending a message out there and through our papers and everywhere to vote and to get involved, and just not when you think it involves you, but all the time, because every decision, I hear people say, I'm not political, or I don't like politics, and everything, when you get up and cut on the lights, that's politics. Everything is political. And I would like to see, as you talked about Dr. King and Dick Gregory over my shoulder here, you say, can't we be lovable? Can't we be kind? And start a new day, fall back in love with ourselves. And so during this month, as we celebrate, and some counterparts at a white newspaper asked me, what were we going to do for Black History Month? I said, what we do every day. And that's why we're here. And I'm just saying, I love it, and let's keep on doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this today was about that privilege, wasn't it? And so we really appreciate, of course, Bobby Henry of the Westside Gazette, Cheryl Smith, the Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media. It's always a privilege, and congratulations again to Cheryl on her new position at NNPA. We know that just means more work for her. And so, and Dr. Chavis always appreciate the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Thanks again for joining Let It Be Known. Join us again tomorrow for a very special edition of Let It Be Known.